This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Now on Sunrise, after authorities say she was caught in the devastating landslide in the gorge, rescue crews continue the search for a missing Warrendale woman this morning and say the mud and rock from that slide is 10 feet deep in spots.
I worry about our staff who might feel pressured to be in the building, and I worry about our families that are multi-generational living situations.
The return to the classroom is on the horizon, but it's getting mixed reaction from the community.
I am not choosing a side, I'm choosing truth. It's the only way to defeat fear.
That's Jamie Herrera Butler, one of our local lawmakers in Washington, D.C., who voted yesterday to impeach President Trump. He now stands as the only president in U.S. history to be impeached twice.
And as we take a live look outside, we are finally seeing a break in the rain. Wasn't it beautiful yesterday? The sun was shining. So weird, right? But it's here to stay for a little while. That is the good news. Another piece of good news, guys, we have made it to Thursday. Good morning to you. Thank you for waking up with us. Let's talk about that weather and go to the Weather Center with Rod Hill.
Good morning. All of the flood watches and warnings have been canceled. The rivers that we were tracking yesterday did in fact recede yesterday afternoon below flood stage, so that's great news. So we're dealing with a quiet Thursday. We have a mix of some passing cloudiness right now. We're looking for some patchy fog. Mid-30s out in Hillsborough, 41 in downtown. Troutdale east winds are back. They'll be blowing to about 30 eventually today out near the gorge. Salem's at 39. The rest of the valley just nice and quiet winds. 48 at noon, partly cloudy skies, all dry, upper 40s at 5 p.m. Back to you.
All right, Rod, right now we're going to let our viewers know, of course, that all eastbound lanes of I-84 are back open to traffic heading into the gorge this morning. Our top story yesterday at this time, of course, was the landslide in the small town of Dodson. This morning, the focus of that story is the woman who is missing. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says they believe she and her car were swept away by that slide. Bryant Clerkley is live right now along I-84 with the latest details about that search. Bryant?
I'm live here in Troutdale, and as you mentioned, all lanes are back open. And when the sun comes up in a few hours, crews will return to the area to search for a missing person. Multnomah County Sheriff's Office tweeted they believe it is 50-year-old Jennifer Moore from Warrendale, who was driving through the gorge when the debris flow swept her and her car away. Crews did try thermal imaging equipment to pick up heat signals, but didn't find anything. From Sky 8, you can see the mess the mud flow and landslides left behind. In some places, it's as deep as 10 feet. Yesterday, we talked to one man who lives in Dodson. He described what he heard during the landslides.
I could hear the creek running like a river. I could hear boulders hitting the ground, shook the house a little bit, not a whole lot. Trees snapping off. And there was trees snapping off like toothpicks.
Evacuations for Dodson residents continued Wednesday night. And if you are an evacuee and you do need a place to stay, the Best Western is open in Hood River. Back to you guys.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Bryant. Part of West Burnside here in the metro area will stay closed through the weekend after a landslide pushed tree and debris onto the road. Now, it also knocked down power lines and a big tree fell onto the Barbara Walker Crossing footbridge. That will stay closed until at least Monday. PBOT had to close West Burnside between Skyline and Tishner for cleanup. There are signs posted and detours in place to help you get around those closures.
Thousands of people lost power during the storm, and a really sad story has stemmed from that. While PGE crews were working yesterday on Highway 26 along the Mount Hood corridor, a flagger was hit and killed by a PGE digger truck. PGE says they are working with everyone that was involved in this accident.
All right, let's get you 3 things to know about COVID this morning. Number 1, a 19-year-old has become the youngest person in Oregon to die with COVID. The Marion County man died in early December and did have underlying health conditions. He was one of the 41 deaths the state reported yesterday. Here's a look at that graph. And we are starting to see positive cases tick back up again after a dip late last month. Number 2, new CDC data shows the impact COVID is having on kids and young adults. Almost 3 million people from infant to 24 tested positive from March to December. The CDC found infection rates increased with age. Only 7% of cases involved kids younger than 4. And listen to this because it's big. Counties that kept in-person learning this whole time have the same infection rates as those that went with remote learning only. That's for K through 12th grade. Colleges and universities saw a significant increase in cases once students got back in class. And number 3, the latest data from Washington shows cases spiked after Christmas and continue to increase. Though it's important to note, Washington's case counts are always behind because they report numbers by the date the person started having symptoms, not right when they tested positive. Case rates are also still high. 31 of the 39 counties are reporting 200 new cases for every 100,000 people. 11 counties had 500 new cases per 100,000. And those are your 3 things to know.
There's also some big news out of the Portland Public School District. Administrators are talking about bringing more students back into buildings around January 25th. The plan to offer limited in-person instruction was announced at a Board of Education meeting earlier this week. The district will start with 16 elementary schools. The initial focus will be on bringing in younger students and some middle and high schoolers who need extra help. We spoke with parents to get their take.
And children going into the building and being able to be safe is one thing, but what is it that they're bringing home?
Other districts have been doing this for months, and it's disappointing it's taken this long to get here.
District administrators say they have been planning for several months, and they'll release more information in the coming days. Vancouver Public Schools are also moving forward with hybrid learning at elementary schools. Kindergartners would go back next Tuesday, first and second graders on January 25th, and students in 3rd through 5th grade would come back February 1st. The hybrid model has 2 days of in-person classes and 3 days remote. Parents can also decide to keep their kids home full-time.
To politics now, where President Trump is now the only president in history to be impeached twice. All Democrats and 10 Republicans voted for impeachment yesterday.
So the first time President Trump was impeached back in 2019, no Republicans voted in favor of impeachment. Tracy Potts has more on that this morning and the preparations that are underway for next week's inauguration.
President Trump is waking up this morning as the first and only president to ever be impeached twice.
Today, in a bipartisan way, the House demonstrated that no one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made it official after 10 Republicans joined every Democrat condemning the president for inciting last week's riot at the Capitol.
I am not choosing a side, I'm choosing truth.
If inciting a deadly insurrection is not enough to get a president impeached, then what is?
Most Republicans argued this impeachment was not just about last week, but the end of a 4-year vendetta by Democrats.
It's always been about getting the president, no matter what.
But one of the president's staunchest supporters who voted no blamed him for the attack.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
In a videotaped speech with no media present, the president never mentioned impeachment, but urged extremists headed to Washington to remain peaceful.
There must be no violence, no law breaking, and no vandalism of any kind. Everyone must follow our laws and obey the instructions of law enforcement.
Now, impeachment heads to the Senate, where Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he's undecided on the president's guilt, but there will be no trial before next week's inauguration. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Washington.
Well, you may have spotted, I should say, a familiar face in Tracy's story there. Southwest Washington Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler. She was among the 10 Republicans who broke party lines and voted yes on impeachment. Herrera Butler says she believes President Trump violated his oath of office.
I'm not afraid of losing my job, but I am afraid that my country will fail. I'm afraid patriots of this country have died in vain. I'm afraid my children won't grow up in a free country. I'm afraid injustice will prevail. But truth.
Republican Dan Newhouse, who represents Central Washington, also voted yes yesterday. As for Oregon lawmakers, they all voted along party lines. Democrats Suzanne Bonamici, Earl Blumenauer, Peter DeFazio, Kurt Schrader all voted yes, and Oregon's only Republican in Congress, freshman lawmaker Cliff Bentz, voted no.
Well, the chair of Clackamas County is now calling for one of the commissioners to step down for making racist and Islamophobic posts on Facebook. We told you about Mark Scholl's posts on Sunrise yesterday. They came to light when a woman who lives in Clackamas County compiled them and shared them online. Scholl also made inflammatory posts about immigrants and the Black Lives Matter movement. Chairwoman Tootie Smith released this short statement saying, in support of the greatest good of citizens of Clackamas County, I have asked that Mark Scholl resign from the Board of County Commissioners immediately. Scholl did apologize for those posts, but indicated he didn't indicate he would step down. You may remember Tootie Smith's name. She made national headlines just a couple months ago when she announced she was inviting all her family and friends to Thanksgiving against the governor's social distancing orders.
Time to rejoin Rod Hill. Now, Rod, we're still seeing some of the effects of that rain on Tuesday into early Wednesday morning. A lot of our viewers, I know, still reeling from that. Yeah. But we did have, really, if you weren't cleaning up yesterday, a beautiful afternoon around the area.
We did, and the big story is, as I mentioned earlier in the show, all the rivers and streams that we were watching have receded back into their banks or below flood stage. So we are under no active watches or warnings for weather or rivers or streams at this hour. So that's great news. And moving forward, as Drew mentioned, if you didn't have a mess to clean up on your property, you're just going to enjoy a nice day. This band of clouds out to sea is a weak system that just kind of clips us. It will bring some showers overnight tonight and then mainly during Friday morning, but rain totals will be about 1/10 of an inch. We're seeing a little bit of passing cloudiness at this hour, and that's it. And those clouds should be thinning out during the day. Right now, 39 out at the airport. 44 up in Astoria, above freezing out in the Gorge. The Dow's 35, in the 20s out in Baker City and Burns. It is a dry weather map for all areas. I do want to show you partly cloudy skies at 2 p.m. Here comes some rain as early as mid-evening at 9 p.m. for the coast. That showers overnight into tomorrow morning here for the Rose City. Again, 1/10 of an inch of rain or less for us. And then tomorrow afternoon, I think, is mainly dry. 52 today and tomorrow, a dry Saturday. Just a few showers around Sunday. Dr. Martin Luther King Day, morning fog to sun, and 51. That's a good looking forecast.